everyone, and welcome back to the Our Vibes podcast. This is episode 3.
Three.
And
what are we talking about today?
Today, the tea is piping hot because we're talking about toxic work environments.
Toxic. Everyone loves to talk about toxic.
So can we play the Britney Spears song, or is that copyright?
Cue Britney Spears.
Britney Spears.
So the question that will, the head of this podcast is, can you recover from a toxic job?
Ooh, are you guys recovered?
Hashtag we will rebuild.
Hashtag recovery.
Girl, I'm in the midst of it, so currently no.
Hashtag live.
Hashtag live. Okay, let's
Who wants to
Let's talk about
start?
first time.
Ooh.
Who wants to start?
Okay.
You seem like
Who
ready.
wants
You're ready to jump.
Without really saying much.
I know. I'm like,
Because what if they give us a lawsuit? I'm just kidding.
I know, right? So I used to work at a retail pharmacy chain. I started as a cashier. And at some point I got promoted to beauty advisor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the ones who are like at the beauty section helping you like, oh, this is good for your dry skin and all this other stuff. And when I got promoted to that, I went from a part-time role to full-time.
Mm-hmm.
Now I was made aware of that.
While you were a student?
Yeah.
Okay.
Girl, I'm still a student.
Oh, yeah.
I'm still a student, but I had limited availability. Like I could still work my 8 hours as contracted when I signed like the promotion stuff. But my working shifts were from 1:30 p.m. until 10:30 at night, and this was a 24-hour store, so there wasn't like any issues. But my boss didn't like it, and he wanted me to be there like at whatever time they called me in. And I was like, no, this is my availability, which hasn't changed since I got hired. I'm not gonna, I have priorities. The school is my priority. So this is the time. If you want me here, I'll be here at that time. Then he's like, you know what? No, you have to make a decision. I'm like, decision for what? This is firm. This is signed. This is since I got hired. This is not gonna change. So that pissed him off, of course. And he started trying to change my availability, switching my shifts from like one day to the other. Like I would get off at 10:30, and then the next day they would be like, "Why are you here?" I'm like, "At 6 a.m. I'm getting ready for class." What the heck are you talking about? They're like, no, your schedule. I'm like, no. And I checked the schedule before I left. You cannot legally, because we were a union store, you cannot change the schedule of an employee without a 24-hour notice and without letting them know. So I started hearing from supervisors who are friends like, you know what, be careful because he's trying to like hostigate you to make you quit because he can fire you. So
He didn't like you.
no, he hated me.
So wait, if I'm understanding correctly, you said that he started changing your schedule
On you,
on the day
notice?
of
Yeah,
without
literally
notice?
of the day off.
Wow, and then would blame you for not showing up because you didn't know.
Exactly. Or he would like,
Toxic.
I still have pictures of like the schedules scribbled and him putting like passive aggressive notes on my schedule and stuff.
Like
and
what? Like late.
No, like literally like,
No
Maria,
show
you
up.
cannot change the schedule to your liking. You have to work whatever hours I give you. Everything is there. So I had pictures and I sent all of that to HR. I submitted through the ethics line. I put complaints. They did nothing.
Why?
Because the district manager was his bestie. He would buy them
Plot
like
twist.
he would buy them like
plot
every freaking
thickens.
Christmas, like $200 bottles of alcohol, and send it off to all the district managers in the area.
No.
That's always the worst when they all know each other or they're best friends outside of work, because when you come back with constructive feedback, they don't do anything about it because they're besties.
Yeah, and it's kind of like at that point, it's like, what do I do?
Why
Yeah.
do some of the ickiest people end up at HR? Like sometimes HR people are like the least trusting people,
Yeah.
but sometimes they're really great. Not all.
I was gonna say there's hope. I have met people that are snaky, or when you go complain to HR, not complain, but you go, tell them how it's going, and then they tell everyone, and then you're scared to go to HR because there's no secrecy there. But then as I grew older, there's faith and there's hope, because I've met really great HR people. In my last job, I really, really liked the HR. I love them. I think they were probably my favorite HRs I've ever met. So
Were they like head of happiness?
they kind of were.
I love those people. They're the best.
They were
It's
the
like,
sweetest.
It's like the sunshine crew. But that's the thing, and something that I've unfortunately learned through TikTok is that most of the time HR is there to protect the company, not to protect employees. So that's why Michael Scott hated Toby. That's why.
Yeah, I
Feeling
feel like
happiness.
No, go
Oh,
ahead.
no, you go ahead.
I was gonna say I feel like HR has gotten a bad rep over the years where they're saying they're for the people. They're not for the people; they're for the company, which is a bummer. But I feel like there are HRs out there that are nice.
Very nice.
Yeah.
There's hope. There's hope. And if there isn't, y'all are the new generation. You need to step it up.
We need to change.
Be the change.
Anyways, Caroline,
Oh.
please
My
relive your
toxic-
trauma.
Oh, my toxic job. So like I should have listened to the red flags straight up in the interview, because it was like these two like sorority type mean girls who were interviewing me. One was on screen, one was off screen, and like in the middle of the interview they just like burst out laughing and are like, ah, oh my god, stop, and like I didn't know why
So
they were
there's, like, a
laughing or
chat
what was
going
going
on.
on. Yeah, they were like,
Wait, they were laughing while you were answering the interview or before the interview started?
it was in the middle of the interview. Like, I think I had asked her the
Wow.
question and they just broke out laughing. And I was like, is the girl behind camera like making fun of me or something? And so like I finished the interview feeling like really icky. And then I got the job. And it was like a good opportunity because they had like cool clients and I
Yeah.
did like meet cool people through that job. But like that whole job was just like a bunch of mean girls.
Yeah.
So much that like in my last few weeks they had like a group text chat with the entire like their entire team, and they were all like making fun of this girl that had added all of them on LinkedIn and
Which is
like,
what you're supposed to do.
on Instagram, and like messaging them to get to know them, being like, hi, I'm interested in like applying at the company, what's it like? They were
Yeah.
making fun of her, being like, that's so embarrassing that she's so eager, like what a creep, blah 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 blah. And I was like, that's awful. And I noticed a trend because there weren't any POC working there. Yeah, so it was just so icky. And they were the type that were like gaslighting me. I've never felt more like low and insecure than I did in
Yeah.
that job, because whenever I would ask for help or say I'm overwhelmed, what do I do? I'm triggered by this phrase to this day. That's the name of the game, is what they would tell me.
They justify their actions that way.
Yeah, and I would like cry so much. And this job was only like 6 months that I was in it. I cried so much, and like I remember calling a coworker and being like, "Is this normal?"
Yeah.
And then she's like, "Yeah." Like, this is not normal. Like my previous agency job, because a lot of these girls, this was their first job out of anything. And I was
Yeah.
like, my previous agency job was not this bad. Like this isn't normal.
They look healthy compared to this.
Yeah, and so that job like broke me, but I'm like, I think that was rock bottom. So every job since then has been like fantastic, super healthy.
Yeah.
I feel valued. I feel like I'm good at my job. So yeah, that was my toxic.
But please tell me that you messaged the girl to be like, hey, do
Oh yeah,
not
what
apply
happened to the
here.
girl? Did you reach out?
I didn't tell her what happened, but she had messaged me too. I waited for her to finally message me, and I told her, hey, I think there's better companies out there.
Tea.
Way to look out.
And I don't think she took it because she's still commenting on their stuff. And,
Oh, she's trying to get in the door.
yeah, because I didn't tell her everything because I didn't want to be that sour employee that like. I
So
mean,
sometimes that's
That's a
needed,
good-
dude.
I wish I
Sometimes
would
that's
have
needed.
warned.
That's a
I
good
know,
point, though.
I know.
Yeah.
But like, how do you tell someone, hey, there's a group chat where everyone was making fun of you?
No,
Yeah.
Yeah, don't do
maybe
that.
more like, like unfortunately, like from what I've seen here, there's better opportunities out there.
That's
It's
what
not
I
the
told
most-
her.
It's
And
not the
she
most.
still went for it.
It's not the most cooperative or kind environment. Like throw it out there.
Yeah.
But you'd be surprised. I've told people, hey, don't go there. This was my experience, X, Y, and Z, and others' experience. And they still like go.
1, 2,
but
3.
They open the door and they're like, hey.
Yeah.
No, but you gave me something to think about too. I feel like there's some companies that do an excellent job at marketing themselves because they have these great clients, but like I've noticed this now. Whenever they're really like the culture, I'm like, or when
We're
they
a
say
family.
oh my god, triggering,
Girl,
triggering.
that's literally where I'm at right now.
Run. If they
Run,
say
girl.
we're a family, run for the hills.
Yeah, I learned now in 2 years too late. Still
Yeah.
in there.
And they're like, we care about our employees. No, you don't.
No. I don't need new family members. Excuse me, ma'am.
I already have enough with my family. I do not
Yeah.
need any extra more drama. Thank you very
Oh
much.
no. What about you, Vanessa? How's your
So I think I've had two, unfortunately. So one, I was a student working at a local organization. Not local. What am I saying? I don't know what I'm saying. I was working at the school. And it's a big campus, so I'm not outing myself. But the interview was so weird. Like, there was 3 people. One of them was on their phone. One of them was like attacking me, and the other one was like really nice.
Mean girls.
Mean girls. Yeah, they were all ganging up on me. And I went home and I just like cried because I felt so terrible. Like I didn't know like what I just like
give you a hug so much, but I know you don't like him, so I'm just like.
But yeah, that's how I felt. And then I took the job because I needed money. And then as I started becoming friends with everybody, we talked about our interview experience, and everyone had the same experience. So I don't know what that says.
Better?
I don't know if that's better or worse.
That's so sad because there's a pattern. Both of you guys were being interviewed by these people, and they were making fun of you while you were interviewing.
Yeah.
Like that's so sad.
Yeah. That's why I felt like I didn't get the job. And then they told me, like, I did. And I was like, oh, okay.
Should that be a new red flag?
But like we
Maybe.
were also like earlier in her career. Like
Yeah,
I
they were like,
it
we're
was in
gonna
the,
take it.
It was after the pandemic,
Yeah.
kind of desperate.
And then the second one was after the pandemic. And I was really excited about this job. Like, I remember feeling happy, like, going into the interview. And I felt really good about the interview. Like, I feel like I did really well. And the girl, she reminded me of a mean girl. That should have been the first red flag. And then I got the job. I took the job. And the training experience was zero. Nothing. And then I worked at site, and they worked from home some days. So there was times where I was just alone. And then I think the first week they also got COVID. So that was like, oh, great. And then, yeah, it was just really weird. I don't even know how to explain it. And the exit interview, after I like completely just said, I don't want to do this anymore, they did an exit interview. And they asked, like, what could have been better? And I was like, honestly, the training. Because after I got hired, someone else got hired. And they had a lot more training than I had. Like, they were kind of like holding their hand, kind of. And I was like,
So it's just you?
yeah.
Man.
It was just me that got zero training.
Did you ever like work with them? Like
Yes, I
together
did work
in an
with-
office?
Not really. And then there was one time where they like took me out to lunch, and I felt so weird.
Did they like talk
Oh,
to you?
it felt so weird because I found out that they all knew each other before this job.
Oh.
And that's the tea.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's always the worst when they're all friends and you can't even like say anything.
Yeah.
And that's usually in a lot of places. You'd be surprised. I feel
Oh
like
yeah, no, 100%. Those internal referrals are like 80% of the chance that you get hired.
Yeah.
Did you give them a 2-week notice or not though?
No, I didn't.
That's good. I regret giving mine the courtesy to me.
that's good.
No, that's good because honestly, my place, they didn't deserve that 2-week
Yeah.
notice. Like, they were awful with me. So I should have just been like, bye. And I could have, but I didn't. So good on you.
Yeah.
Good job for you. I feel like for me, like in not just I can't even define how toxic my work environment is.
I
I feel
don't
like
even know the right words to explain.
I'd be like
it.
still traumatized, but I feel like they were toxic on so many levels. One from the HR perspective, where you couldn't go voice your concerns to HR because you knew that they would tell everyone,
Yeah.
and they didn't have that confidentiality. Second,
Systemic.
and the second one was a lot of the men were very sexist, and they were all in leadership roles. So if you already don't trust HR to go tell them about, hey, like a lot of them made a lot of inappropriate comments towards me and towards others.
Oh no.
So that was very uncomfortable, and especially since it was early on in my career, it's like, what do you do with that? You're just in culture shock, because I feel like when you're younger and you graduate from college and you're like, oh my God, I'm so excited to get in the workforce, they're gonna be so professional. And when you enter, you realize that there's no professionalism, and you're like, wait, what? I've been waiting my whole life for this moment. It's so discouraging. So that, and then I also worked like over 40 hours a week and wouldn't get my overtime. So that was a struggle. A lot of it also was part of me not knowing the laws yet. So I learned that later in my career to like fend for myself and respect boundaries. And then the last one was boundaries. I feel like they crossed a lot of boundaries, from the stuff that they told me to the stuff that they kind of made us like masked for clients or other things. It was just a lot to take in, and there was no support to really like go talk to these people. And a lot of the people that a lot of my workforce had a problem with was management. And it's such a shame, because management, we're all best friends. So if you spoke bad about one, they were all gonna snitch on you.
Yeah, pues iban con el chisme.
Yeah, and then when you're early on in your career, you kind of can't really say anything, and it's such a shame because you jeopardize your career.
Yeah.
Almost. So.
That's the name of the game.
Yeah.
No, like, and I get it, because like for me, like it was my first corporate job, and I'm like, you know what? At this point, I'm like, I'm fed up. I'm just gonna match the energy. And I'm like, what? We used to be so much fun. What happened? I'm like, I'm fun. I am
You're
fun.
not fun.
And I'm like, but if you're gonna be rude, I'm gonna be rude back. It's like, you're like, I'm not being rude. Check yourself.
I've
Something where you
noticed
wreck
that
yourself.
when you like match someone else's energy, they're kind of like, oh, I can't mess with this person, and then they knock it off. But if you don't say anything,
They keep going.
That
they're
or
gonna
they
chew
get
gum.
I'm not.
that,
Yeah.
or they get super offended and they get worse.
Yes, it's like
And
you're
that's
the
just not
one.
in toxic workplaces. That's also with people.
Yeah.
Egos.
Egos.
Ooh.
Oh, well, those are some stories. Let's shake it off with a little break and then we'll come back.
Because I'm fired up.
I know.
We'll come back with our recovery stories.
I know.
This episode was brought to you by Chismosa Cafe.
And we're back. We've dusted off the trauma. Now what are we going to talk about?
How did we leave?
Hashtag recovery.
Yes.
How did we leave?
Recovery.
Hashtag Workaholics Anonymous.
I got another job. I prayed a lot. My family was praying for me because I was crying all the time, really depressed. I got another job, and like I said, I was really thankful. Well, not super thankful, but like I'm glad I went through that because it made me stronger and appreciate the much better jobs I got afterwards. That like didn't text me on weekends. The next job immediately right after was like, we respect out of office like completely. No one will bother you. Unlimited time off, like amazing, and like everybody got their work done.
Yeah.
No one got in trouble for everything. Like we were just overperforming because like we're so respected. So now like every interview, I will ask everyone what is work-life balance for you, and if they get ooh about it, if they like try to work around it, red flag,
Run.
red flag.
Yeah.
Because at this job, this was my like favorite job ever. Every single person was so eager to like tell me how much they love the work-life balance at this job, and that was like huge green flags for me.
That, and I think another good question, like in that kind of stuff, if you're interviewing, is like, okay, why is the position open? Did someone leave or did someone get promoted?
You know what? I've never thought of asking that question.
I asked that in my head.
That's such
never
a
to them.
good
I've been on the
idea.
interview side of TikTok lately. Like, oh, I'm taking notes.
But also, like, I was interviewing for a job, like I applied, and it kept coming up. Like they kept posting it, and I'm like, what's going on here?
Easy turnaround.
So I don't know.
Yeah, that's usually a red flag. If a lot of their employees are only there for a few months, there's a reason.
Yeah.
That's true. They have a high turnover rate.
Yeah.
Well, how I left, I also prayed, but I didn't get a job. And it was like the good thing about that toxic job was that it was temporary. So there was always like an end date, but I couldn't make it to the end date because it was just so bad. So I was like, peace.
Oh, you put in 2 weeks, huh?
No.
Oh, you didn't? And I said, that's amazing.
Yeah. The first toxic job, it was temporary, and we all just left. We all just like disintegrated.
Nice.
And then the second toxic job, yeah, I didn't put 2 weeks. I was like, I was there for a day. I'm like, I'm good. I would like to tie up the loose ends. I'm good with that. And then bye.
Nice.
Like Thanos, she snapped her fingers.
Yeah.
What gave you the confidence to make that decision and put yourself first?
I was gonna say something. You know what? I'm gonna say it. Every time I drove there, I was like, I hope I get in an accident.
Oh my God, that's,
Girl,
but
my
that's so
truth
sad.
is
Like,
that,
it gets to that point
Yeah.
where your mental health is so broken that you're like, I just rather die right now.
Like
You can even not exist.
You can tell sometimes when people have a bad job because of the canas. Like you'll get canas as a young person.
Me staring at people.
I already have a few.
Oh,
But that, and I'm like, thankfully you can't tell because I did my hair.
you're like, I'm red. That's why my hair's red.
No, literally, but I do have a few.
I would cry not to work. I would cry from work. I would just cry. And then I would just dust it off when I got home. But then like at some points, I think towards the end, I just couldn't dust it off. And I was like, I feel so stressed. Not stressed. It's
Miserable?
like just heavy. Yeah.
And you know what? We didn't even talk about that, but I think when you're in a toxic environment, it's very hard for you to leave it and brush it off at work. So then you take it into your home. And the people that suffer are the people closest to you.
Yeah.
Where you start being snappy, you're in a bad mood, and it's like they didn't even do anything. You're just pissed.
Yeah. Well,
That's
I
so
think
true.
you guys were in my life at that point, and I just didn't hang out with you guys. I remember we got invited somewhere, and I was like, I don't want to go. Like, I don't want to do anything. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel it. Like for me, it's like I literally like I'm sitting at the car and I'm like, it's too late to call out if I'm already parked outside. They already saw my car.
Yeah.
Or it's like, well, I'll get home and I'll just like sit at the car for a good 15 minutes, just like blasting music. I'm like, okay, just to get out of the headspace before I get into home, because like my family doesn't deserve the drama. We're having enough drama as it is.
Yeah.
There was a time when I would have lunch in my car because I just didn't want to hang out with anyone.
No, same.
Because I just needed a break
Why
from
is it
Yeah.
like high school?
No, it is, right? I feel like
yeah,
Katie
and then
Harry
high
and
school never stops.
Yeah. And I can't, this might be a whole other tangent, but I can't help but think about like our parents' generation that like, they just did this for like decades. Like just
know.
hating their job.
My parents did see me cry and they're like, leave it. And I was like, I think that's when I was like, I can leave it. Yeah.
Because if your parents tell you
But, like,
that's
yeah,
messed up,
if
you
they're
should
like-
sue or you need to leave, that's when you're
Then,
like, okay,
you
it's
know,
really that
it's real
bad.
Yeah.
bad.
Because if I left it and then my parents were like, why did you leave it? And then I would feel like just a whole level of crappiness. But they encouraged me to leave it. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to leave.
you bring up a good point about the parents, because my dad, every time I tell him about a toxic environment, he goes, yo que ni tenía papeles, yo les decía de cosas. Ta, 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 ta. ¿Por qué no te defiendes? And I'm like,
Girl, that's literally my dad.
We love someone who has self-worth.
yeah, like self-worth kings and queens out there.
No, seriously, like,
No,
and-
but like at that point, he was probably like, okay.
Y yo, oh, it's because I know.
you know, same. And,
hyping
like,
himself up.
and I'm like venting to my dad now, and he's like, you know what I would do? Like, he's like, because apparently, like in one of his previous jobs, like his boss tried to record him and like to get him in trouble, and he realized, he's like, you cannot record me, and he cussed it off and just left. He's like, what you have to do is like, you know what you're doing is harassment, and this is a hostile work environment. I'm gonna call my lawyer, and I'm like, dang, sir, okay. I'm like, I'm taking notes.
I know.
Yeah.
Got it.
So some of us by our toxic work environment, it really took a toll on our like self-confidence. How did you guys kind of start to recover after that?
That's such a good
If
question.
you have.
That was tough. Nah, I got confidence. Now hire me. I know how to do my job. No, I think it took going to another job and realizing how much you know and how appreciated you are for what you know, that you realize that you were just in the wrong environment. I feel like sometimes when you're in a toxic environment, it could just be management, or people don't like you,
Yeah.
or maybe you don't feel the confidence to ask questions or to almost help yourself out because of the negative repercussions you can get
Yeah.
from the help. So you kind of close yourself off and you're like, oh, I'm just surviving in here. But when I went to another role and they respected me, I feel like that really set the standard to how
Respect.
that. I legit, when they ask me in an interview, what do you look for in a workforce? I always say trust and respect. Always. Because I feel like from my toxic environments, I learned so much, and now I make sure I ask all the right questions, whether it be about my department, how they're going to treat me, the culture. It's
Micromanagement is like lack of trust.
it really is. They don't trust you, and it's
That
just
or,
such a bummer.
or you have management who is insecure and feels threatened, even if you're doing a good job.
And also in the interviews, you can kind of tell HR how they are. I went on an interview once, and the lady off the bat told me how much you were getting paid. The company asked all the questions before that were all in my head, and I'm like, she answered everything within that, and she was so well prepared, and I really admired that. I've gotten 2 HRs that have done that, and I thought that was really impressive. They tend to be on the younger side, so I don't know if that's like a new generation.
I
thing,
think
but-
so. I
The
really
head of
think so.
happiness people, they're freaking amazing.
That and people who are actually, you know, like they're not gonna BS you and try to like, because if they know, and I've been coming across the stuff on TikTok and even on Twitter now, people saying, you know, like noticing that if you're like undervaluing yourself when you're interviewing, like people hear like, oh, I cut off the video call and I texted him like, hey, you should be asking for this. And we need more of that. We need more people in the workforce who are willing to, like, you know, give people what they're worth and not try to lowball you and exploit you.
Yeah. No, that's true.
I'd like to end this episode with like some affirmations to our listeners. So if you're in a job right now that you're unhappy, and we can all take turns, you don't deserve to feel belittled.
That's your affirmation.
That's my affirmation. You deserve a place where you feel respected.
Ooh.
I don't know if I have one because I'm #recover.
It's out there.
I know. Keep going, Caroline.
Yeah, I was like, ooh.
I have a few, but I'm getting my words in order.
You are capable. You are smarter than you think. You are
Why is that sounding like Winnie the Pooh?
I sound like Winnie the Pooh.
Like, you
And
know
this
that
is the
you're
Walt
stronger
Disney
than you
special.
think. You're braver than you are.
Am I the only one with affirmation too?
No, I love that one. I literally have it. Like, my mom gave it down to me, but that's why I was like, it sounds like the Winnie the Pooh one.
Because I'm saying this because that's what helped me during my unemployment. Well, I was unemployed after my job, after the toxic job. But like even through the toxic job, listening to affirmations, there's one podcast called Ponte Perra. That like it's like bilingual affirmation.
Can that be the affirmation? Can that be the affirmation? Ponte perra.
Okay, well, we're like sending me people now. That really helped me. And like being surrounded by like you guys, friends, families, my partner that like reminded me that my job is wrong about me and that I'm more capable and confident than that shitty job.
Yeah.
made
You
me
can
feel.
make it one. Can I say it before I forget?
Go for it.
You are not your job. Whatever you're doing right now, whichever way they make you feel at work, that does not define your work. That does not define who you are. Your productivity does not determine your worth. And just because someone around you and your work might be trying to belittle you or make you feel like you're worthless, remind yourself of what you've done, how you've gotten there, and that you deserve better.
Period.
Yeah.
Yes. Felt that in my soul.
We'll end
Girl, I'm
it.
trying to remind myself.
Well, I think for me, since I'm recovering, I think like I start. I think I just like it's okay to ask questions because they kind of made me feel at times that it wasn't okay to ask questions, and because I wasn't trained enough, I was like, I can't ask questions because I wasn't trained good enough. So that's mine.
Yeah, I feel like I don't have affirmations, but I guess the best advice I can give is to leave if you can and you're capable, and it's only temporary. Like Mafer said,
it's only temporary.
Yeah,
Everything's only temporary.
you are not your job, and try not to let it affect your personal life so much because you'd be surprised when you meet up with friends and they're so happy to see you, and then they're like, "How are you going?" Oh, this, that, and you start complaining, and all the conversations are about your job. I think if you got into that point, leave. I know we're in the middle of a recession, so that might not apply right now. But when we're not, run for the hills if you can, and it's possible. You're gonna be supported and respected elsewhere, and set boundaries in your next job. Whatever, like write down all the cons and all the things that you wish you would have done, and implement them in your new job from day one, so people know how to treat you and respect you.
Yeah.
Take notes of what you liked, what you didn't like. And also with like the hanging out with friends, obviously like we're all friends here, like we can vent to each other, but it's also like it sucks that it has having so much power over you
Yes.
that even when you're outside of job, they're still making you miserable.
That we already see the majority of the people we see in our lifetime is our coworkers, so it just consumes us, so it makes sense.
It's like it sucks because you're not even getting paid because you're not on the clock, and they're still making you miserable.
They live in your mind rent free.
They live in your mind rent free.
Rent free, and you're even free of charge because you're not getting paid.
Well, let's bring some good vibes.
Not temporary,
Good
not
vibes, good
temporary.
vibes. Someone hire me.
Someone hire us. We are ready for hire.
For hire.
And
Yeah.
if there's anyone out there right now with the, in the interviewing and applying to jobs and just getting the automatic thing that comes through, just
You're not alone.
you're not alone. Hang in there. Something better will come along. Just
Yeah.
sometimes it takes time.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for listening. We're sending good vibes your way.
And a
Good
huge
vibes,
hug.
good vibes, good vibes, good vibes.
Bye.
Bye.